Happy Friday, everybody. We're back for another amazing episode of FridAI. It's been a week full of drama. I am up north right now, just about an hour and a half outside of the city, enjoying a beautiful spa day with my mom and my sisters. But wanted to make sure we came back and had a chat because this has been a really interesting week. And I'm, of course, excited to show everyone and share with everyone what we're doing with everything around our sales and marketing automation and the amazing success that we've had with that new platform, which has seen incredible results on our conversions. But before we jump into all that, Kasim, how's your week been? How are you doing?
Yeah, first of all, thank you for having me. And I have to say, it was the biggest tech drama I have actually witnessed in a long time. It was really interesting.
Yes.
For those people who might not be, aware if you're sort of dug away from the social media. So basically what happened this week was that Sam Altman, who is the founder of OpenAI, the company who brought us ChatGPT and other AI-related products such as Dolly, he was fired actually as the CEO of OpenAI, and he was actually just outrightly
Yet
fired.
he wasn't.
Yet he wasn't. I mean, that's the beauty of this entire thing, that this was actually getting updated by the minute on Twitter. Like, I was actually glued to my phone seeing what was happening next. I don't know if that's what you were doing as well, but yeah, it was a roller coaster.
Absolutely. Yeah, it was definitely lots of drama, and it's funny because we have all this drama, all these ups and downs, only to circle back to exactly where we were. And in fact, with a new feature drop on November 21st, they rolled out voice across all users. So it went from me thinking maybe ChatGPT was dead in the water to it giving us a whole nother feature again.
Thank God.
Across all users. So, yeah, it's been a week full of drama, but like it was such a roller coaster as it was happening, because there was so much speculation around what this would ultimately mean for ChatGPT, and of course why was it all going down, which I don't know if we'll ever really know, but it does seem to be some sort of a power struggle between OpenAI's board and Sam Altman, and it seems to be, I mean, this is pure conjecture, but it seems to be around the pace. And I guess there was an article where one of the board members had critiqued OpenAI themselves. Like, the board member of AI is critiquing OpenAI for moving too quickly on the adoption of artificial general intelligence. But I know, Kasim, you went through like the timeline for us. Can you break down like what happened when, right? Like, because you've got the breakdowns. Like, was it Saturday it was Friday that everything broke, right?
Yeah, it was. Yeah. So before I actually get into the timeline, I think it's important to sort of understand some context in terms of what OpenAI is. And this entire story, interestingly enough, goes back to 2015, believe it or not. Because OpenAI, as some of you may know, it's basically a company which is dedicated to build out an artificial general intelligence. Now, what does artificial general intelligence means? Their definitions changed. About 4 years ago, we would have said that ChatGPT is the AGI, artificial general intelligence, they were aiming for. But it's basically sort of an AI super system which exceeds the intellect of humans, and it can work across multiple modes and multiple platforms. So that's sort of like what the company's right now. Back when the company started in 2015 and Sam Altman founded the company, their mission was to run the company as a non-profit, because they didn't want their intention to be driven by commercial decisions. They didn't want to think about revenue and profit and stuff like that. So Sam Altman actually invested a bunch of his own money. They set out to raise, I think, $1 billion, but unfortunately they raised only about 130 million, which, I mean, seems like a lot, but in the broader scheme of things, it's not really enough to keep up with the scale of OpenAI is right now. right? So they had investors. Elon Musk actually invested in the company as well. And they built out a few products. I think GPT-2 was in the mix at that time. Dolly had been out for quite a long time before ChatGPT. And that's what they were sort of working on. Now, come 2017, 2018, that's when they actually realized, OpenAI realized that, hey, we're going to run out of cash, because it's an expensive endeavor. We need to be able to keep up with all of our expenses. And that's when Sam Altman kind of, so here's what the OpenAI corporate structure is right now. At the parent company OpenAI is still a nonprofit. It has 6 board members. 3 of them are from OpenAI, 3 of them are external. And what they did in 2018 or 19, I believe, was they created a subsidiary company, which was OpenAI LLC, and that was a for-profit company. So the non-profit basically owned the profit company. Now you guys might think that that's kind of idiotic. How can a non-profit? But it has some merit to it, because the non-profit actually had the power to make all the important decisions. So they weren't really driven by all the revenue and stuff like that. So that's what they did, and that's when Microsoft actually came in to invest, and they became a so-called minority stakeholder by owning 49% of the company. Now, this is something, Andrew, which I told you, is that Microsoft, now this is actually crucial to the story, guys, this particular fact that I'm about to say. Microsoft actually didn't invest in OpenAI by paying them cash upfront. What they did was...
Yeah, you told me that earlier. I was shocked at that. I didn't realize that the 14 billion was effectively server credits.
Exactly. That's what it was. It was Microsoft Azure cloud computing credits, because OpenAI needed to have servers. They needed servers to run. So that's what they did. That was around, I think, 14 something billion dollars. And that's how Microsoft invested. And now, keeping up with the theme of, making sure that they were committed to not think about profit, even though Microsoft invested in OpenAI, they didn't have a board seat, right? They didn't actually get to decide what was going to happen. But, behind the scenes, even though they didn't have a board seat, ChatGPT got it with Bing and literally every other Microsoft product. We talked about Microsoft 365, and we talked about another, I completely blanked out, another Microsoft product that incorporated AI into it. And so it's basically every Copilot is what I'm thinking about. So basically,
Copilot,
everything that ChatGPT did and OpenAI did, Microsoft integrated within their own products. Now, that sort of brings us to our current scenario, where Sam Altman was attending a conference actually representing OpenAI on Thursday. And he got a text message or something from one of the board members, Ilya, his name was, I think. He was, I believe, chief science officer, something like that. And he told them to, and it became a meme. He told him to join a Google Meet link the next day, and that's what the meme was. Don't ever join a Google Meet meeting now. So they joined the Google Meet meeting on the next day, on Friday, and Sam Altman got fired right there then on the spot, which kind of blew our minds as to what happened. And
for some really baloney reason, right? For inconsistencies in communication or something. And I think that the root of it was they never actually had any evidence of any wrongdoing, which is effectively how they were able to dismantle the old board and get him back his job, correct?
Exactly. What they cited in the beginning was that he wasn't perfectly candid with the board, whatever that means.
What does that mean?
Yeah. And after that, when they actually investigated, there was no malfeasance. Now we'll actually get to Emmett Shear, the co-founder of Twitch, who was later appointed as a CEO as well. But going in the sequence now, he got fired on Friday, right? And this created a lot of boom. OpenAI was kind of in jeopardy because Sam Altman was the front-running force who was developing all these products, and they appointed an interim CEO who was the CTO at the time. Her name was Mira Moratic, something like that, and she was a CTO.
And her first thing was to rehire Sam, right? So exactly. They fired her.
Exactly. That's what I was saying. It was a complete soap opera drama kind of situation, which
Yeah.
is happening, right? So that's what they did. Microsoft stock plummeted, believe it or not. Like if you open Google and looked at the stock, it kind of went like that in a line, which
Right.
was very concerning. And Satya Nadella, the CEO of Microsoft, had to tweet out at 3 a.m. That we're gonna hire Sam Altman to work at Microsoft now, right?
Right. And that's when everyone was speculating that Microsoft had basically swooped in and scooped this product for virtually nothing. And now they were going to have Sam Altman and potentially hundreds of the employees, because they were all basically, freaking out, right? They're like, what's going on with this coup? We want Sam, right? Like, to see a culture where over 700 of the 770 employees sign a petition to be like, if he's gone, I'm gone.
Exactly.
Right. That's going to tell you something about his leadership capability, if nothing else, right? To be that loved by his team is incredibly powerful.
For sure, definitely. I mean, that's kind of what the tipping point was, because, like when all the employees came forward, what people were saying basically was that Microsoft was getting a $90 billion company for free. And the reason why I said that, they gave them cloud computing credits, and the reason why that fact was important up till now, is that they didn't actually pay OpenAI any money. They could effectively cancel all of their credits because of not meeting certain terms in the contract or whatever, and they could import all of the talent for OpenAI to Microsoft for free. I mean, essentially for free. And it was, I don't know if Microsoft is happier now that Sam Altman got reinstated, or if they would have been happy if he wouldn't have been reinstated. But anyway, I digress. So that's what Satya tweeted out,
right.
It became
at 3 a.m. was this Saturday or Sunday morning?
So that was basically Saturday morning, 3 a.m. Right, like Friday. This all happened on Friday, and before the stock market opened on Saturday, Satya had to tweet it out, because it was a really
Well, I guess the market wouldn't be open till Monday, but I mean the damage that could be caused, it was like the value of the company was almost eroded overnight, and it's also interesting to me too that you have board members that have no financial connection back to OpenAI, and yet actually have connections to other artificial intelligence platforms. To me, that's the whole thing. That was I get that the reason the board existed the way it existed is because it started as a nonprofit, and this was, because there was a lot of fear and concern about, advanced general intelligence and what that could mean, and what's it called? What that everyone's fears that the
singularity.
Yeah, the singularity, right, or the Skynet that everyone fears is going to happen with ChatGPT, and that's why it was designed this way. In theory, was to prevent the company from being profit-driven, like other companies like Google or Facebook might be, in hopes that they wouldn't be releasing updates and technology too quickly until they've actually made sure that it's sort of safe for the world. And I guess that the company has shifted to a for-profit model. And do we need to be concerned about, is OpenAI releasing functionality and moving too quickly? I mean, now that they've, like I said, we went from the company almost being just debunked overnight, or not debunked, but destroyed overnight, to we got a whole nother product release. Now, it's not necessarily a new product, because for those of us who are paid versions, we had it, but they're releasing more features out to the masses and to the people who are on the free version. So is that something we need to be concerned about? Do we need to be concerned about, what was this? Was this just a rift between two board members? Or is there a concern here that Sam Altman is doing things as far as advanced general intelligence that we should be concerned about when it comes to, the singularity or any kind of fears that we might have around advancing artificial intelligence too quickly? Yeah, but I guess we'll never know.
I mean, that's something which actually, whatever goes on in the lab, it's that saying, whatever happens in Vegas stays in Vegas. So whatever happens in the lab stays in the lab, right? We don't know what's going on, behind the development curtain. But there's two main theories. I mean, I don't know if we'll ever know why he actually got fired, but there's like two main theories. The first, which you mentioned right now, is that OpenAI was moving too quickly. They were becoming commercial. I mean, I guess I couldn't fault them for it because Sam Altman has been really transparent since quite a few years. Is that he's been like, hey guys, we need the money if we're going to stay afloat, right? We can't do this based on the pocket change, the 130 mil pocket change that we have, right? So they needed to raise serious capital, or they needed the cloud computing credits, which Microsoft gave them, to actually continue forward. That's something that Sam Altman, as far as I know, he's been really transparent about. So that's the first theory, is that are they moving too forward? And we'll actually discuss this in detail later on as well. The second theory, which people are positing, I don't know how accurate it is that Sam Altman is starting his own AI-based chip startup to sort of compete with NVIDIA, and supposedly he's been raising cash for that using OpenAI's name. Now, if that is the case, actually, then that's obviously an ethical problem, and the board needed to address that. But how accurate that is, we don't know. We'll never know, because obviously it's not publicly traded. We can't say for sure. So, I mean, those are kind of like the two main theories. And so basically, like, everything that happened after Sam Altman was fired, Greg Brockman, who was actually one of the co-founders of OpenAI with Sam Altman, he was removed.
He was also fired.
Yeah, he was not kind of fired. He was removed as the board member, but they told him that he would be able to stay and still work at OpenAI. So effectively, they stripped him, they demoted him from his position, and so that's what happened. They brought in a ton of CEOs. First, they had an interim one, and then finally they landed on. And I think what they basically did was that they sort of asked people off the street, "Hey, do you want to be CEO? Do you want to be CEO?" And then they got Emmett Shear to come on board. Now, who is Emmett Shear, you might ask? He's the co-founder of Twitch.
CEO of Twitch, right?
CEO of Twitch, and I don't know how he falls in the mix to run OpenAI, but that's what they did, right? And I don't know if you heard this, but Emmett Shear actually, he asked from the board. He was pretty straightforward. He was like, "Why did you fire Sam Altman?" He wanted a concrete reasoning, and that's when this came out, that he wasn't actually fired due to any malfeasance or any misconduct. And Emmett Shear just straight up said that if you can't give me a concrete reason, I won't join in. Simply, And he sort of worked as the intermediary. Now, interestingly, now we're to Sunday right now. We're at Sunday at this point, and Sam Altman tweeted this photo where he was holding a guest badge. Did you see that, Andrew?
Right. Yeah.
And he was like, "This is the first and last."
He said first and last time, right?
That's what he said. And it seemed like he was gonna get hired back on Sunday. They were negotiating that they were gonna, there was gonna be a change of the board leadership. He was gonna come back on. The board was given some deadlines. They asked for some extensions, and interestingly enough, they didn't hire him back on Sunday again. And I was like, wow, he's actually gone. Like there's no coming back, right? And so that's what the board was doing.
And that's when Microsoft hired him, right?
Exactly. Microsoft had hired him prior to that, and basically he was now sort of in the phase of negotiating for his return. And to be honest, Sam Altman, the moment he was fired, he basically tweeted saying, "Okay, but this journey ended. I have the next project in the pipeline already." He was pretty excited. He was like, "All right, screw it. I'm just, pardon my language, I'm just going to go on to the next big thing." And then Greg Brockman tweeted saying that the next big thing is coming, something like that. So, I mean, they seemed okay with it. But after that, the board was sort of giving false hopes to Sam, I guess. They said, "We were going to hire you back," and then they didn't on Sunday. And then, as you said, the numbers vary based on who you read, but it's reported that more than 700 out of the 770 employees signed the letter saying that we will leave OpenAI to work with Sam Altman if he's not reinstated as the CEO. And Mira Muradki, who was the CTO of OpenAI, she also signed that letter, and that's what ultimately sort of drove the board to reinstate him, and then he got reinstated on Monday. And so reinstated in principle. I don't know what that means, but it seems like he's going to be back and working again in his old role. And as you said, already a new feature has been rolled out. So that's sort of where we are at this moment.
Yeah, and so we're quote unquote back to normal. But I mean, I guess the question is this going to have an impact on the community and the users of OpenAI and ChatGPT? Are people going to be now hesitant to focus solely on one generative AI like ChatGPT, or is this going to put people more into looking at Bard and Grok and the others, right? Because I sort of feel like for myself, I'm like, well, now am I too tied to this one platform, and what am I going to do if ChatGPT disappears overnight, right?
Right.
Like I guess something else would spring up in its place, but it also makes me feel now that maybe I should be spending some more time with Anthropic. Who, by the way, in all this, there's the other news that's worth talking about is so ChatGPT announced their big changes and the amount of data that you can load into ChatGPT, and I forget the term what's that called when you for the amount of data that you can load into it. And that was a big deal, and it became more than Anthropic. Anthropic had the larger consistency or chain, and then ChatGPT's released theirs, but now Anthropic has come out and increased theirs as well, right? So Anthropic is back to number one as far as being able to load the most amount of data into the AI. And so, I mean, is that going to make you spend more time focusing on Anthropic and looking at alternatives to ChatGPT?
Yeah, I think that's a very pivotal question, because if we talk about it from a consumer standpoint, it's history has told us, and we see it as well, is that the more competitors and the more products there are in the market, the better it is for the consumer, right? We have a ton of
drives innovation.
Exactly. We have a ton of choices to choose from. There's going to be a price sort of competition. Each company is going to try and innovate and become better and better compared to the other company. So that's very important from a consumer perspective. Now, coming back to the AI landscape, what people are fearing now, and what this entire drama has basically told us, is that the AI space right now is kind of, I wouldn't call it a monopoly, but it's kind of an oligopoly, so to speak. Because the reason why I say that is, if you look at Google, and it's really interesting because I don't know how much of our audience actually follows the I/O conferences that Google does. Basically, what Google does every year is that they show off a ton of products, AI-related products, in their I/O conferences. But they never release it. They release some of it, very minor ones. But they always say, like, hey, we developed this product, but it's still in the experimental phase, and we're going to slowly roll it out, and blah, blah, blah. And that's sort of their whole ethos, is to be responsible with AI, right? Now, after ChatGPT came along, and I think it's been almost a year now since ChatGPT was released, Google had to sort of kind of break its principles. Usually they're very, slow to roll out this AI stuff. They're really careful about it because they have a lot to lose, right? What happened, and everyone was talking about AI and everyone was using ChatGPT. Google had to rush with their own, product, which was Bard, their own LLM generative-based chatbot, right? Now, that's what they did, and then we saw some other ones come out as well. Grok is one of them as well. So I guess now what the state is that, even though it's sort of like a good thing that OpenAI is pushing people to innovate and come up with their own LLM models, The problem that I see right now is that ChatGPT is kind of miles ahead in terms of its competition. That's kind of a good and kind of a bad thing as well. The good thing about it, obviously, as you and I, we use ChatGPT daily in our workflows, is that we have a ton of features to play with, right? We have a ton of features which help us improve our efficiency and stuff like that. But the problem with that is that the moment we try and switch to some other model, whether it's Bard or whatever it is, I feel that, it's not complete. Like, it's still maybe in the experimental phase. Like, maybe the companies just rush with releasing it to keep up with the pace, to keep up with what ChatGPT was doing and OpenAI was doing. So,
Right.
I mean, to sort of circle back to the question you asked, I think right now, even if the other AI products and the other native-based models are not at their full capacity and at what they can be at their full potential, we should definitely go and experiment with them and try them out. Like, we can't stay reliant on one product. I mean, it actually scared me. I was like, ChatGPT is gone. It's dead. What are we going to do now? And I'm sure that's how it felt as well. Because, so, I mean, I think it kind of sort of goes back to another question, which I think maybe you can sort of provide some input on, is that after this entire drama and after this entire debacle, so to speak, do you think there needs to be some regulation on AI, on LLM, on these generative models based on what we saw?
Yeah, I mean, I think we definitely do. I mean, especially if OpenAI was supposed to be the not-for-profit version that wasn't going to be moving at pace because of the fears around AGI, and they're now moving at the fastest pace of anyone, and have the most number of users, that we should probably have some concerns. And I mean, I'm pro-regulation. It's hard because, as you know, I'm also pro-innovation.
Right.
And I don't like to have regulation unless it's truly necessary. But I think that there's some incredible power, and with great power comes great responsibility, as the expression goes, right? So I do think that that's long overdue, as we need to start seeing some more governance around these apps. And because it's a bit of a big black box to all of us too, right? What's actually going on behind the scenes. And obviously there's tea and there's drama that we're not hearing about, we're not knowing, we're not understanding. And I would I would rest better at night knowing that there was someone who was at least doing some form of due diligence to make sure that we're not creating Skynet, right? Like, it's a distant fear, but it's still a fear nonetheless, right? And so I'd love to see some regulation. And I think from my standpoint, what all this drama means for me is I'm going to continue working with OpenAI. We're going to show you guys in a few minutes some stuff we've already done with Zapier, and we'll be having more conversations about that. And we're excited for next week. Next week's Jim Harris, right? We got Jim Harris coming in.
Yeah, we do.
To be the Zapier in our introduction. So today's a bit of a taste of Zapier. Next week will be a much deeper dive into Zapier, but we wanted to show off. And in fact, the reason I wanted to talk about that was because when I was down in Vegas, it was the one thing I was telling everyone we were working on, because we'd had such amazing success, with the huge increase in conversions when we rolled it out, which it did fall down a little bit, but we've still been having good work and good conversions and improvement in conversions. And I think that having a program like this is huge. So I'll continue to work with OpenAI, but I'm going to spend more time trying to sort of encourage myself to not be invested solely in one product. So I'll spend more time playing around with Anthropic and using Anthropic in different places. I think that there's also other things that I'm now more interested in learning about, like Amazon's Bedrock. I don't know if you're familiar with their Amazon's Bedrock platform, but it basically allows you to build your own AI system. I think obviously, we've talked about in the past the importance of confidentiality and being able to train the system on the right amount, the right data. So I'm thinking more and more that I want to explore, at least spend some time learning about how complicated and how hard is it for us to build out our own engine and our own models. because it's all done with APIs now, right?
For
we
sure.
can ask ChatGPT to help me set up and configure my Bedrock installation on Amazon servers, right? So we're lucky and fortunate that we have this era where it's so easy for anyone to invest the time. I know as business owners, there's never enough time in the world, and we never have the free time to invest in this stuff. But I think it's imperative that we do take the time, because it's sort of that catch-22, right? Whereas if you don't invest the time to learn these new technologies and implement automations and workflow automation into your practice and general artificial or generative artificial intelligence, you don't take the time to start building those in,
Exactly.
you're never going to get less busy, right? Practices grow and grow every year. You get busier and busier, not less busy. So if you're not actually investing the time now to build out those automations, those systems, those processes, you're doomed to repeat the past and continue to struggle with never having enough hours in your day. So you know how I feel about automations and how I feel about RPA and all this stuff, and I know how hard it is for people to invest the time. But I'm gonna beat people over the head with it and encourage them to come out and build these, because I think it can have such a big difference. But on that note, it's we're probably a little bit overdue for sharing with everyone, which I think they wanted to know more about how we're using generative AI, how we're using automation like Zapier to actually improve our business. Because when I was down in Vegas, as I said, it was really interesting to talk to people and hear that people are using AI in some ways, but really quite small ways, like putting together emails and sample responses and templates. But they're not building out a ton of automations out of it. Most of it, I think, people will go into OpenAI themselves, copy and paste something. I know you're now on the beta release of Google's platform, right, which gives you access to a whole bunch of new technologies. And I think people are starting to integrate it into their businesses in that way. But I thought it would be worthwhile to share with everyone how we've actually done it and the results that we actually saw, right? So we have a sales process like pretty much every business does, where our sales funnel is we're going to market and sell on the internet with lead magnets and Google ads and Facebook ads and webinars like this one and podcasts, with the goal of trying to push people over to our website, and then on our website to book an initial consultation. And then once we come in with the consultation, we track our close ratios. And our close ratio, I think for 2022, we just did our KPI reporting last week with the team. And our close ratio last year was 17%, right? So lots of areas for improvement. We knew we wanted to work on how we were going to actually improve our conversion rate. So the first thing that we started with is we started putting together a Google form. And maybe now is a good time for me to try and share my screen. I may have to kill my camera while I share this, because as Kasim knows, it's really bright where I am, and it's really, really hard for me to see my screen. So I'm going to try my best.
People want the blanket, Andrew. Give the people what
they want. People want the blanket? Okay. The blanket is coming out. So this is what I have to do until I get a better computer with a higher nits. So let's go to our Google Forms and let's show you
awesome
the form that we use in our sales and marketing process. So the first thing that we did is we went into ChatGPT and we told it about its business. As you guys have seen in the past, we have custom instructions. And we said, hey, based on our business, can you help me build a value-based questionnaire? So a series of questions that we want to go through with our clients to better understand their needs, right? And to be able to provide a solution that meets and solves the problems that they're facing. So this is what it came back with, and this is the form that we use. Now, this is not a form that we ask the clients to complete. This is a form that's done by our sales and marketing team. They're asking the clients in a very conversational way these questions, not necessarily always in this order, but they will answer every one of these questions as they've got to go through and put in all of them. So we want to know what prompted this prospect to seek out accounting services at the specific time. We want to ask them what are the top 3 objectives that they wish to achieve with their accounting services. We ask them to describe a moment when they felt their previous accounting services, if any, felt short. And then we move into the what behind the why, where we ask how they currently manage their finances. We ask them what would success look like in a partnership with an accounting firm. We ask them what, in their opinion, has been a significant hurdle in achieving their financial goals.
To the people watching, you can generate these questions ChatGPT, like for yourself. It's that easy.
Sorry, can you repeat that, Kasim?
I'm just saying, for the people watching, you can generate these questions using ChatGPT. It's that simple.
Absolutely. Yeah. And then we go through the value and impact. And if we could solve one pressing financial issue for immediately, what would that be? Are there any services or offerings you wish your previous or current accounting firm provided that they don't? And then what would make you recommend an accounting firm like ours? Which I think is a great question, actually. And then we move on to decision making. So who else is involved in the decision making process? On a scale of 1 to 10, how ready are they to make changes to improve their financial situation? Ask them around their timeline for making a decision. And then lastly, we're into sort of the closing touch. So we want to know how they heard about us, if there was a referral source. We also want to know if there's anything that we haven't covered that we want to make sure that we're aware of. And then, lastly, we just want to figure out whether they want us to actually follow up with them. And so what happens with this is this goes into, so it goes into a Zap. A Zap triggers a call to ChatGPT, which we'll show you. And what comes out is an email like this. And this is an email from an actual situation where it says, hey, I want to, and this is going out to my sales and marketing managers as well as myself. So I get a copy of this, but it's going to the sales team. And the idea here is we want to arm them with the tools that they need to know and understand how to convert this prospect from a lead into an active client. Yep. So, and I'll show you the prompt and what we use for this in a second. But I wanted to show you what comes out of this. So that you saw what goes in, and this is what comes out. So it says, make sure to follow up by next month.
Can you zoom a bit, Andrew, so people can see you clearly, if that's possible?
How's that?
Yeah, perfect. That's good.
So make sure to follow up by next month. Be aware that the client's timeline for making a decision is once they receive a contract. Based on the information provided here, the most important strategies for closing this prospect. Address the prospect's immediate need, their incorporation services. And I love that it uses, so you'll see this in the prompt, it's using some of the top 10 books around sales and negotiation to provide that knowledge to our team. So it says, as per the Never Split the Difference by Chris Voss, great book, it's crucial to address the prospect's immediate needs. In this case, the prospect is seeking help with incorporation. We should provide clear, concise, and compelling information about our incorporation services, demonstrating our expertise and how we can make the process seamless for them. Number 2, we want to demonstrate value through tax saving expertise. According to Sell is Human by Daniel H. Pink, we should focus on the prospect's desire to save on taxes. We should highlight our expertise in tax planning and strategies, showing how we can help them save money. And this will demonstrate our value and align with their objectives. Lastly, we want to show emotional intelligence and customer service excellence. And as per the Emotional Intelligence 2.0 by Travis Bradbury, we should show empathy and understanding towards the prospect's hurdles and concerns.
Very important.
We should also emphasize our commitment to excellent customer service, and this is a factor that would make them recommend us to others. So now my team has the 3 key points, and they may just keep those in the back of their head. So when they have a phone call with a client, they know to focus in on these 3 areas in the hopes of actually converting them. But it also drafts a nice letter, which I'm probably not going to read the whole letter to everyone. But it puts together a letter basically using these 3 key points, and a letter can then go out. Now, I think I've shared with people before in the past, and I will share again here, the fail that we actually had with you, Kasim, when I first rolled out AI in January and had it sort of responding. So, I'd be, it's funny because I've told this story a couple times now. And I'd be curious to hear from your perspective what happened, because you're a contractor who works with us. You work on a number of projects for us. You had sent an email basically responding about one of the projects that we were working on. And in effect, the ChatGPT responded to that email, effectively terminating our contract, right? Is that basically what happened?
Pretty much. It was a normal day. I woke up, had some coffee, opened to check my emails, and I think I emailed about something. I don't remember what it was. And I got a response from you saying that, while it has been a great professional relationship, it's time that we part ways, and it was great working with you, and so on and so forth. And right. My sort of initial reaction was, because I knew obviously you were experimenting with with ChatGPT, but I actually aware that you had this integration. So, I mean, it was kind of weird and unnerving, so to speak. So obviously I reached out to you and you told me that it was AI generated. So big sigh of relief.
And I immediately took the AI off as an autoresponder. And now I still love AI and I love the insights that it can give to us, but I temper that with, I want to wrap AI in a human layer and make sure that we're using AI to just up the skill and capability of our human staff, not as a replacement. I mean, I still think RPA is more of a replacement than generative AI is for our firm. But what it is it's a tool to augment us and improve us, and to give my team the knowledge and the information, because they're not experts. They may or may not have read all these books that we have on artificial or on sales and marketing. And so it's just giving them more insights and upping their skill level when it comes to sales and marketing. But let's see if we can take a look at the Zapier.
Can you maybe give the audience sort of a high-level overview of what Zapier is and what it does?
Sure. So Zapier is a tool where you can create Zaps, and it's incredibly powerful. We're going to go into it in much more detail next week. But what it allows you to do is, whenever there's an application, I'm going to take this off for a second as I explain, because it gets hot under there. So what it allows you to do is, if there's applications that have APIs, and those APIs are published, Zapier can connect to those APIs and connect multiple applications together. So it's sort of like a middleware that allows you to create automations for your business, right? So you can set up a process that has a trigger, and when that trigger is triggered, it will create actions, and you can do multiple things. You can do very complicated. There's some people in our community who have done, like Heather Satterley has done a whole bunch of amazing training videos on Zapier and how you can roll it out in your firm. But it's really for me, it's a middleware application that allows you to connect two applications that had a known open API connection, and you are limited to whatever the applications have published as far as their availability of APIs, right? But let's see if we can go in and show you, because sometimes it's easier to see.
Yeah, let's show them the Zap that you created.
Yeah.
It's very intuitive as well.
Consultation and follow-up.
Yeah.
Sorry, can you repeat that?
I was just saying it's very intuitive as well. You can layer it in blocks and build that logic, right?
Exactly. So, and the thing is with my zaps are often relatively simple zaps. I'm not looking for, a zap with 150 steps. I like it nice and clean. You can see here, we've got 3 things. It opens a Google form, which is our trigger, right? So that when a new form is completed, that's what's going to kick off this process. Then it's going to have a conversation with ChatGPT, and then it's going to send an outbound email. Super simple. I think maybe if it took me 20 minutes to build this, I'd be surprised, right? And if we sorry, go ahead.
No, that's what I was saying. Pretty simple. Yep.
Yeah. Okay, I'm going back under the blanket. I lost my cursor. Oh,
Maybe you can zoom in a bit to sort of show people the blocks, and then
yeah. I'm going to do that by editing the Zap, and we'll dive into them. So this is our trigger. There's a new Google form. So basically, we have to connect an account. You connect to your Google account. You choose a trigger. So in this case, it's when this Google form is completed. So I had to select which form it is. I can test this. It'll run to see and pull a record. And then I can even add a step here in between if I wanted to. And it's really simple. You just literally type in what you want to access. Like if I wanted to go to Infusionsoft, which is our CRM, I guess it's actually called Keep now. And remember that. Yep. So you could just add whatever actions that you want. And to blow it away if you want, I'll just delete that because I don't really want to add anything. But then I go into my conversation with ChatGPT, right? So I've got all this information. So now that trigger is run, I have access to all of the information that was sent over in that Google form. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to access my ChatGPT account, and I'm going to have an action here. You can see here, this is effectively, let's call this my prompt that I'm sending over to ChatGPT. So I'm saying, my colleague had an initial consultation where we discovered the following information about a new prospect. Based on this information, can you outline the 3 most important strategies for closing this prospect, and tell me what those are? Can you also provide a separate short intro letter from the owner of the firm, Andrew Wall, that leverages these strategies? Please note that there should not be any mention of follow-up by Andrew Wall, as a future follow-up will be done by the colleague who had the initial consultation. And I say, I then go through and I just fill in all the fields from the form. So this is what prompted you. So those are all the questions, and we're feeding in the answers. And then there's one really more important thing. There's a couple more actually important things that we want to feed it, as opposed to, in addition to just the actual data that we want to fill into it. We want to tell it what model we're going to use. And so I'm using ChatGPT 4. We also want to use a memory key. And a memory key is really interesting because we can effectively circle back to this conversation. And that's something that we're really excited to sort of explore as sort of a next step or an iterative step, because our old process, once they complete an initial consultation, they go into our CRM and we kick off a drip marketing program. The drip marketing program, we do try to make it a little bit customized in that we have sort of 6 main categories that people might choose to work with us for. And so we tried to gather that information in the initial consultation and then put them onto the drip marketing campaign that was most aligned with where they were or what their journey was, right? Whether they were newly incorporated, whether they were looking to, reduce taxes, whether they were a multi-year cleanup. We wanted to have our messaging a little bit more personalized to their individual situation, right? Because that's the one problem with drip marketing campaigns is if they feel robotic or they don't feel personalized, people don't engage with them, they don't work, they're not effective. Yep. So what we've been talking about now is, well, if we have this memory key and we can remember everything that we've told it about the initial consultation, can we then maybe take those 6 campaigns and say, here's a bunch of information, here's a bunch of campaigns that we use. Can you pick and choose the email messaging from those campaigns that are more tailored to this client's specific needs, and what's the message you want to send this week, so that we can do like a really truly bespoke conversation to the customer, and we can remember, okay, based on what you've sent them already, because we would just come back and reference this memory key and be like, last week you recommended we send this email, what email should we send this week, right? And we could build in those automations to, really create these bespoke messaging, automated messaging and drip messaging campaigns that can go out to them, which I think is incredibly powerful.
Yeah.
And then we also have in here some assistant instructions. Again, this is like custom instructions. So here's where I'm sort of setting the tone. I'm setting the purpose of the ChatGPT. And again, this is about you prompt engineering. And this is what we changed to use. And we moved around with a couple of the different things. But I said, you are a world-class salesman who uses a combination of humor, warmth, and accounting competence to sell, and are an expert on sales conversion optimization. You will also apply the sales best sales strategies. You guys know I can't type, or I can't spell, or even communicate in a meaningful way, but somehow ChatGPT understood me.
It understands
Strategies from the following books to structure your response. So then I give it a list of the 10 most common books. To Sell is Human, Never Split the Difference, Everybody Lies, Influence, The Psychology of Persuasion, Pitch Anything, Zig Ziglar's Secrets, Little Red Book. So now my prompt engineer, or my GPT engine, has access to all of the knowledge from those books, and it's effectively amplifying the skills and the capability of what we can do with this technology. And that really is it. We do set max number of tokens and temperature, but you can really just go with the defaults of that, and that's it. So that's all I had to build, and you can play around with what you want your prompt to be. Like maybe you want to use completely different books, maybe you don't want to use books at all, but you can give it that context of like who you want this GPT or this conversation to be with, and what knowledge and skills they have, right? So it's that context loading is key. And then once basically we have got a response from ChatGPT, we simply send an outbound email.
Yep.
And again, this is going to go out to me and my sales team, and just all we're sending back is the response. So I don't know, maybe we can quickly go into
So
that.
Andrew, they have a bunch of pre-built apps as well, right? For like your daily, day-to-day functions, which you can just simply import and start using. You don't even have to build out this app from scratch.
Yeah. So there is, I mean, and again, this is more stuff that we will cover next week when we get into Zapier. So Zapier's got a whole bunch of pre-built Zaps that you can take just off the shelf, so to speak. There where people have built customizations with OpenAI, with Google Forms, with all the different apps that you might use. But then what I also love now is they now have the AI-based generator, which is really cool. I don't know if you've played around with it yet. I've tried it a little bit. So you can basically say, instead of having to go and build your Zap step by step, like with here's your trigger, here's your action, you can actually just speak to it and say, hey, I'd like you to build me an app that takes information from a Google form, calls ChatGPT, and takes the result and gives it back to me as an email. Right?
Really?
And maybe you don't want this as an email, maybe you want this to go out to a CRM system. You can completely customize this to your own need. But I mean, you see, maybe we can talk to some of the success that this has had for the team. So I think, the first week was unbelievable. We literally went from 17% to 100% close ratio in the first week. Now that's an exception and anomaly. We're not up near those numbers now, but we have more than doubled in subsequent weeks the close ratio that we had. And I think that this is, there's a couple reasons for that, right? We've sort of more formalized and structured our sales consultation process. I mean, there's another side of this as well, because we have a new PowerPoint deck that the sales team uses, which has helped with that as well. But effectively what we've done is we've leveraged generative AI to help us do a better job of the processes that we were doing before. We had a sales process. There was questions that our sales team was asking them, but were they the best questions? Were they the right questions? I can tell you that my sales team has said, these new questions are amazing. Like, they really love the ones where we're asking them about their past experiences with previous accounts. They're really loving their questions we're asking them, like, what does success look like for us? Which is funny. It's such a simple question, but we weren't asking it before, right?
Yeah.
And so now we're asking better questions. We're documenting those questions. And this is also like, there's a whole other area of being able to mine this data. Like, this is summarize this down to the 3 key points, right? But as we build a track record of all these clients with all this information, and we'll know which ones converted, we'll be able to go and take all of the results, like the Excel spreadsheet of all the Google results, load them into ChatGPT and help us analyze and be like, hey, these are the types of clients that retained, right? And this is the information that they told us. How do we attract and find more people like this?
Yep.
Right?
Sure.
And so that's, to me, that's why it's such exciting times, is because there's so many things that you can do that are relatively low-hanging fruit that aren't overly complicated or difficult to build. Like I said, built this in 20 minutes, and we're not trying to completely overhaul our entire practice in one foul sweep, right? It's like, let's just concentrate on one area of your firm that needs improvement. For us, it was our conversion rate, right? Our conversion rate was too low. We knew we wanted to work on it. We knew we wanted to change it and improve it. So how can we leverage generative AI to make our processes better? Well, hey, let's come up with some better questions and let's help refine our process. And now let's give our team access to more information automatically so that they don't even have to think. They're now primed and provided with all the key pieces of information that they need to be able to have a conversation with that client, whether it's by email, it's over the phone, it's instant messaging, whatever the platform is. They know the 3 things that they need to focus on for that unique client. Right. And to provide, and that's, interesting is because for us, where we are a large company who deals with a lot of clients and who leverages a lot of automation and have for years, is that when you leverage a lot of automation, it can come across as robotic and not personal. But when we can really get into unique responses and every email is customized for that client, it provides a much more personalized or bespoke service.
For sure. I definitely, since we only have about 3 minutes left, so I'll sort of try and wrap everything. Firstly, everyone, definitely tune in to our next cast. It's going to be amazing. We're going to dive into Zapier. This was just a preview. And secondly, I think it's a very good note to end everything on, because as Andrew said, when we implemented this entire automation with Zapier and with generative AI, it didn't replace our sales time, right? It didn't come up with a process where we could just simply get rid of the humans and the AI could take care of everything, right? And that sort of answers, I think, in my opinion, the broader question around the topic, which is, will AI replace human beings? I personally think that AI will augment human beings. Like, it will definitely make our jobs easier. If we're working 8 hours a day, we might not have to work 8 hours. We can work 4 hours a day, but we still need that human touch, right? We just can't get rid of it, at least at this stage. And that's really important, to give that personal touch, especially when you're interacting with a potential client or an actual client, right?
And to make sure it doesn't fire people.
Make sure it doesn't fire people. That's a very important thing as well, people. So it's been a blast for sure, and really excited about this come.
Yeah, it is. It's exciting times. I think AI is going to augment and improve our ability to work. It's not going to replace us. There's some areas where it is replacing people, like we see on the digital marketing side. But again, it's not replacing people. It's just allowing smaller teams to do more, which means I guess they don't have to hire people, right? So we've got that aspect of it. And as anyone who knows me knows, I also believe that as far as replacing people, that's going to be RPA first. That's going to be what is replacing people in the near future. Just like robots are replacing people on assembly lines and, at the Ford factory and stuff. Robots are going to start replacing people in the knowledge work environment. We're seeing that already, and we're at the tip of the iceberg. When the two work together, it's going to be the combination. And this, again, is something that shouldn't scare people. It should empower them and excite them, in my opinion. But I guess that's a topic of conversation for another day. We are at time. Kasim, thank you as always for joining me. And I believe Rachel will be here with us next week with Jim. She's down in the U.S. celebrating the American Thanksgiving with her family down in the U.S. And I do want to say I wish everyone a happy Thanksgiving, and I'm thankful that we are living in this era and we have all this amazing technology to work with. And
sometimes,
yeah, absolutely. So thanks, Kasim. We'll see you again next week, and we'll see if I can find my cursor. If I'm going to have to go back under the blanket to be able to.
Here comes the blanket.
Yeah, here comes the blanket to end the stream. Bye for now, everybody.